Join Nikki, Rosella, Robert, Kayla, and Cole Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time as we traverse the portals of the universe. Discover the secrets of the cryptids. Uncover the truth of conspiracy. And explore the hauntings of our world. And once again, welcome to the S4 Paranormal Bunker.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the S4 Paranormal Bunker. Tonight we are talking past lives. And Rosella's got some stories for us. So, we're going to have a good night tonight.
I was a leprechaun in my past life.
You're a leprechaun in this life.
I just never found that pot of gold, obviously.
You're the height of a leprechaun.
Then show me where it is.
Right?
Yeah.
So, how's everybody doing this week? Like, it's been rough for a few of us. I get it.
Uh-huh.
I think it's been rough for all of us.
Yeah.
I'm doing okay. I'm not gonna lie.
Hey, I'm not. Shut up.
What?
That's messed up, bro.
Why?
Because you're supposed to love me and feel my pain. Like, that's all.
No, I love you. I'm not gonna feel your pain plus mine. That's nuts.
Right? Oh my god, you'd be just like completely like tweaking out all the time.
Friend, it is July 4th week here in the States. Robert, what are you doing for July 4th?
Probably the same as I did for today. Nothing.
Okay, I gotta be perfectly honest.
Forgot about that.
I actually asked one of my friends that lives in the Netherlands that I talk to online sometimes. I was like, oh man, it's July 4th. This is awesome. And like, went into all this stuff and she was like, you realize I'm not American, right? And I was like, oh shit. My bad. I totally spaced it.
That's so funny. Well, I actually met my husband on July 3rd in 1990, and we have in our old neighborhood that I still live next to, not in a part of, but next to, about a half mile away. And I still bike through it pretty much every day. It's not hot as heck, so it's been a while.
Right.
But yes, it's been too hot to even move. But, I still go through that neighborhood, and they have a huge bash every year on July 3rd, and that is the day that I met him, and it is actually it's the start of my novel.
Nice.
My entire life changed then. He was 3 houses down, and my number is always, everything has to do with threes.
Right.
So funny, and in, where I live in Troy, Ohio, our initial phone numbers, was 937-335, and then 513 back in the day, and then 335. So it's kind of funny that my whole life has always been threes. It's just strange, like license plates, addresses, everything.
Right.
It's just kind of funny. So everything comes down to that.
So
yeah,
I will tell you, Rosella. Thank you for that, because that just sparked something in me that I
Seriously?
Okay,
I remembered.
I forgot again this year.
I had a whole announcement ready.
So, as of tomorrow, I guess me and Cole have been married officially for
You seriously can't remember?
What?
How long?
17 years.
You hesitated.
I did hesitate. Shut up. I had to think about how old Hunter was and take off a year. So me and Cole officially have been married as of tomorrow at 2 p.m. for 17 years.
So you're telling me your anniversary is tomorrow and you guys forgot?
Well,
oh, no,
okay.
Whoa. She forgot.
Okay, I forgot. But here's the thing: is that's
wow.
We got married by a justice of the peace, basically, on the 3rd, and then we did a full ceremony and everything on the 30th of August. So we always count the 30th of August as like our actual anniversary. So years have gone by. Like, okay, we had this landlord once. It was actually really funny. We had this landlord once that came and was like, "Oh, happy anniversary, guys!" And we were like, "Holy shit, it's our anniversary!" I think that was
my God.
8 years or something at that point. But yeah, so I kind of always skip over this one because it was just like justice of the peace stuff to like figure out paperwork and everything. And then we had our actual ceremony with like friends, family, and everything else on the 30th of August.
We had a 3-day
That's far away in August.
We had a 3-day wedding.
We did have a 3-day wedding in August. It was great. Everybody camped over and we just like drank and partied for 3 days with live bands and everything. It was awesome.
Wow. That was pretty awesome.
So
yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah, 35 years ago, my whole life changed. I mean, pretty crazy, I think. But if I never would have moved into that house, there would never be a book, but I would also have never even probably known I'm gifted in a way. I mean, you never know.
Right.
So, kind of
Like,
crazy.
It would have hit you somehow.
It
would have hit you somehow. You would have known.
Eventually you would have gotten there, for sure.
Yeah. But God have yelled at me all these years later.
Right.
You're doing this. I don't want to.
But you know, it's actually kind of crazy how all the little things add up to like who we are today. Like, you think about how if I hadn't done this little tiny thing like years and years and years ago, I would have never been connected with this person who ended up making it like possible for me to do X, Y, and Z. You know, it's actually
even if
crazy.
Sometimes that person sucks, like you know, but they led you to another good person. Yeah,
it's crazy how those little tiny decisions can somehow completely alter your entire existence.
It's true. It really is. Well, you know, think about it too. Like my first paranormal experience, I was like, I think I was 4 years old, and I can't say exactly remember it, but I remember it like scaring the hell out of me and running to my parents' room. And from then on, I slept in my parents' room until we moved to Troy because I was born in Chicago. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. So I guess Robert's right. I guess it would have found me anyway.
Exactly. And see, that's the thing that I think about, like, with my first couple of paranormal experiences. I was so young that it doesn't really register the same.
Right, me too, yeah.
Like,
what was that?
as I get older, I, like, think back on it, and I go, oh, shit, that really did happen. You know?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
What I've got to say people are going to be shocked about, I shut mine off the second I was asked.
Mm-hmm.
I shut my abilities off.
Oh. Asked by who? What are you saying?
Like when you were little?
No. I'm trying not to say it.
Oh, okay.
But basically, I shut my abilities down the second that I got asked. So.
Well, I mean, and honestly, every once in a while, you have to. Because things like your own personal life and everything that's going on with you and like everything else, like sometimes you have to shut that external down in order to just deal with day to day.
Live.
You know?
Yeah, I've been like, people are like, are you getting anything from me today? The last few days? And I'm like, hell no. I think that you're last, I'm sorry, person on my mind right now. Because it's like, I'm just trying to survive the next 1 minute.
Right? Like, I don't need any of this shit right now, so I'm just gonna completely box it up, and I'm gonna move on for a couple of months or a year or whatever it takes, and then come back to it maybe later. But, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. Like, yeah, it's really hard. Yeah, because people are like, okay, can I do this? Can I do? I'm like, okay, so we're gonna schedule this ahead of time when I'm not going through this like hell right now.
Well, and then sometimes it
gotta take
feels
care of
like once people realize that you can do something, that like every random person out of the woodworks just comes out and is like, hey, do this for me. Hey, do that for me. And you're like, dude, just leave me alone. Please just give me my own space and time. Like, we need our own personal space and our own personal, like, I just need to, like, sit here and calm the fuck down and be away from everything for a while.
Yeah, I mean, you need to take like time for you. Like, when I went to go visit my parents, like, a little bit ago, this is the best thing I ever did, because I'm like, wow, just getting away from things, really great, because when you're out of your, element where you feel, it's like kind of like in a way, like when you work from home, you feel like you always have to be like working or doing something. So there's never a break. And it was nice to like kind of just get away where nobody also knew where you, like who you were, to ask, hey, I've always wondered about this, or da 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 da. Because I always had the same questions.
Well,
can you shut it off? Can you do this? Can you do that?
That's kind of how I feel like with famous people, and that's why I don't typically, like, even if I see somebody, I'm not going to run over and ask for a picture or something, because I'm like, okay, this is their, like, chill time. They are doing their own thing. They're being their own person. I'm not going to interrupt that by being like, hey, oh my God, it's you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
of course.
I have the
when we
same
saw
thing.
the Thunderbirds last week, that's not what happened. But it was really nice.
I'm not going to ask for a picture either. I just chloroform, take them home, and then I'll ask later. Like, it's a lot easier.
Maybe break their ankles.
Yeah. Well, you guys see that we met the Thunderbird, like some of the Thunderbirds. So, like, we were standing outside, like, my daughter graduated from this UD program, and she's young, but she did, like, a camp, and this is her second year for the saxophone, and we went to this restaurant nearby, and that's where they're staying. So, anyway, we saw them all coming in, and I'm like, oh my God, it's so cool, oh my gosh. And we were going to go see the air show the next day, because it's a part of my husband's work picnic, and it's really neat, the place that they have. It just goes right over your head, like right there in front of you. So neat. But we were like, we're going to go see you tomorrow and stuff like that. The guy was so nice, because when he saw my son waving, which my son rarely does because he is extremely introverted shy, and he just laughed and he just smiled. He's like, come on over here, son. He was so sweet. And you could tell he had kids. But he was the actual, like he was a Thunderbird in a way, but he wasn't a pilot. But he was the one, he has the biggest job of all. He's the maintenance guy for the actual, like, airplanes.
Oh, okay.
So I think that he has the best prominent job that he doesn't, like, ever.
Right.
Keeping everybody alive, so yeah. I was like, that's
I gotta
so
say
cool.
whoop whoop to the maintenance guys.
I know. I'm like, hey, awesome. So he was telling the kids about, like, like hydraulics and all these things, it's really kind of cool. Nice. And I was like, well, you have the best job of all, if you ask me. And I was like stating in front of the kids why. But it was really neat. But yeah, I think it's funny too, because like if you see somebody like being invasive and being, like disgustingly over fan, they're repulsed because they're so sick of it. But if you just smile and wave, just like, seeing their reaction will tell a lot. Like, we all have bad days.
That depends on the person.
Yeah, because
really
there's
does.
some of them that are just like 100%.
No.
Yeah, it does.
Like, okay, so I do not get starstruck with people from movies, TV shows, singers, anything like that anymore, because I've met too many of them in my lifetime.
Right.
But
it depends on the person for me, yeah.
When I was 12 years old, I met Wes Anderson. he drives Gravedigger, the monster truck.
Oh,
He's the original driver of Gravedigger. And
Sorry.
I jumped
Stand
into
girl.
that man's lap. And he giggled with me. Like,
I love it.
he was hugging me back just as hard as I was hugging him.
That's
funny.
That's January. Every January. And the only reason I know that is because of my son's birthday, because it always happens around my son's birthday. The trucks, the whatchamacallit
The
trucks.
monster
Oh my
trucks.
god.
Monster trucks.
Monster trucks. Oh my god. Yeah, and one year my kid got to go see. Oh, it was awesome. I heard all about it. I was like, we couldn't do all 4 tickets or 3 tickets or whatever it was. But anyway, he got to go, and that was a big deal.
The last time
Huge
I went
monster truck fans.
was the World Finals in Canada, and it was the freestyle finals. So it's when all of the guys, they've been competing all year round, and this is the last time they're going to use this truck. So they do tricks that they know are going to destroy the truck.
The truck, yes.
Okay, whoa.
And it's loud.
I gotta say,
I remember
the
that.
first and last time I ever went to monster trucks ended up in like
earplugs.
This crazy shooting that happened like right next to us. And it kind of threw me off of ever going to monster trucks again.
Well,
but it was just because of everything that happened. It was so fucking scary. Okay.
Wasn't that 2014?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yes, we went to the fair, and we took our kids to the Linden Fair to watch the monster trucks. And we had gotten these tickets from... Okay, I'm going to say, first of all...
Kayla's not a car person, first of all. So this whole week, like this whole night, was kind of off from the beginning.
Yes.
Because one of the trucks lost a tire. She grabbed both our boys so hard, I think she broke ribs.
Yeah, no.
I don't know if they were theirs or hers.
It freaked me out because it came flying at us, and then it like hit the gate, but we were fine. But it scared the shit out of me. Okay, and
that's what happened.
Oh my God.
Okay, so time out. We're gonna start at the beginning of the story really quick. We got these tickets off of like Craigslist type thing because it was like a last minute type thing. And when we went to get the tickets, the man who was giving us the tickets was an ex-firefighter. And he had been severely burnt in a fire, and that's how he had like come across the tickets, was from some golf tournament thing for like disabled firefighters. Okay, and he couldn't go, so he had given us the tickets. So we went to his house and picked him up, and that was honestly a little bit of a hard experience for me, just because I have a really hard time with people who are burn victims. I don't mean to be an asshole or anything like that. It's just very hard for me to see that. Okay?
I sent you back to the car.
So I really don't know where to look or how to say anything, or I get very awkward around that.
I'm going to tell you something. I grew up with my great aunt who was a burn victim from trying to save her siblings out of a tent fire. And she was covered well over 70% of her body with burns, face, arms, hands, the whole 9 yards, because the tent collapsed on top of her while she was running out with a baby.
Yeah.
And so I grew up with my aunt like that, my great aunt like that, and I can understand. But then I have family members, other family members who are about my age, who had very serious childhood accidents where they were severely burned.
Mm-hmm.
And it is difficult. It is very difficult because
And see,
there's a mentality because as somebody who is an observer or a family member, you become accustomed to how they look and you fully accept them. But when you see somebody else, a stranger that you don't know, you still see them for who they are, but you still have that. The person does get awkward,
right? And,
so
I
just wanted to validate that.
Yeah,
because
and I wanted to say
very,
it's not like I
very
hate people
difficult.
or anything. It's I don't
No.
mean to. I'm just very awkward in any circumstance like that, where anybody has any kind of deformation in any way. I like my eyes automatically, and then I feel like I'm staring at them, and then I get really weird about it. Like, and I don't mean to, not at all.
It's
It's like
it's uncontrollable.
Almost like
I was thinking, like, though, this is a
my
good
mind takes over.
thing,
You know,
because we're doing the past life kind of thing, and you're afraid of driving.
Yeah.
And now you brought up this, so
Yeah.
be very always interesting to do a past life reading on you. I swear.
Well, see, I have always been
that's-
afraid of vehicles and fire. Like,
Yes,
those are my.
yeah.
Don't say those are your two biggest.
Those aren't my two biggest, but those are two of my.
They're up there.
There's
things.
towels. There's metal utensils.
I literally just figured out why I'm afraid of knives just a few days ago.
Okay.
I'm like, oh my god, that's why.
Well, okay, so
It's a
past lifetime, I don't like things around my neck. I can't wear turtlenecks. I can't wear.
Oh, I hate
And it's
that
because
too.
it's because so in a whatchamacallit class I took, a self-protection class. I can't think of what it's called at the second. Anyway, in the 1990s that I took, part of our graduation was protecting ourselves from an attacker. And they threw a rope around my neck. I lost my ever-loving fucking mind.
Right.
Pardon my language.
Yeah.
And
I
it
would've
wasn't
too.
it wasn't
Yeah.
well, I got out of it and they went down and it was very bad. But and I did protect myself. But because of that incident, it took me many, many years to figure out why I reacted, not only out of protection of my body, physical body, but I had a past lifetime reaction to it. So yeah, your past lifetimes can affect your body, your soul's memory in a significant way in this lifetime that you're living in.
So I'm gonna throw this out here. So Cole was kind of joking around, but not really, when he said you're also afraid of utensils and towels and X, Y, and Z, right? So when I was little, and I mean really little, like between like 4 and 7, okay, I had irrational fears of all kinds of really weird things. And it never really resonated why I had these fears, but it really was like glasses, metal utensils, towels, like inanimate objects that I shouldn't have had fears of because they're everyday objects. Okay? And like I lived in a constant world of like ridiculous awkward fears from the time I was like 4 to 7 with all of these things that didn't make sense to me. Like, there's no reason you should be afraid of, like, towels, okay? Like, nobody's afraid of a towel. Like, that kind of stuff. But as I grew older, I kind of, like, completely forgot about it and kind of grew out of it, like, completely. But I feel like the reason that I was so fearful of, like, everyday objects and stuff when I was a kid might have had something to do with, like, something that happened to me in another life. Like, not this one, because I was too young to really have any experiences in this one for that. You know?
Yeah. And they say, like, you know, as you grow older, like, that you kind of tend to forget about it and move on.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well,
But-
it's just like kids that
Interesting.
remember their past lives. Usually when they reach the age of, like, 9, 10,
You're
they
You're
kind
cutting
of...
in and out, Kayla.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Yeah,
It's
that's
much better. Yeah.
Usually kids that remember their past lives, when they reach the age of, like, anywhere from 8 to 10, they kind of forget about all that stuff. You know, and they, like, move on as who they are. But before that point, they had, like, all kinds of recollections of different things happening to them or different situations happening. And their parents were like, what the hell? You know? But...
Well, it's really funny because, like, the thing is, like, the ghost inside my child that I'm still watching some of them. And it's on, like, Amazon Prime for free that I've been watching it there, but there's other places you can. But the Titanic one, like, really hit me hard. And actually, Misty and I just went to that this last weekend.
Yeah.
We went to this whole show, like the, they call it, like, the immersion. Yeah, it was really interesting. The stuff that you just didn't know that went wrong, and I'm sure there's got to be more, because if there is that much that went wrong, it was like just like a foretold kind of fated thing.
Right.
It was just so beyond negligent, stupid on the captain and everybody, like, who was making big decisions.
Oh, every aspect of it.
God,
Yeah.
Just ridiculous. And then this boy, and, like, you know, I had watched that show. He was blaming himself because he was actually one of the designers of the ship. So he was blaming himself for the ship sinking in general and all these people dying. And it was just really sad. And marching into that aspect and then reading all this stuff, you're like, what in the hell?
Right.
And there's things they don't talk about that they made stops along the way. Well, one guy got off. Somebody who worked for the ship got off and said, I'm getting off. He had a premonition that it was going to go down. And he was like, I'm getting the hell off of this ship. And just walked right off, just like got his stuff, was gone. And nobody really understood why, because he was a bat out of hell, like, getting out of there.
Right.
But I wonder if that guy wrote some freaking book somewhere, because I'm like, this is just, he should really have written something. Holy God. Like, why did you get off?
Yeah. It was like some final destination moment for him. Right?
Yeah. Like, this ship's going down.
Right.
It's just so funny. Like, and you know how everybody, the ship was sinking and people were still like, it's unsinkable. We're okay. But it's filled with water.
Once in a while, like, even your average everyday person that's never had any premonitions, any issues, anything, they'll get, like, a weird feeling about something and, like, walk away from somewhere. Or, like...
Intuition.
Yeah, it's some kind of, like, human intuition that tells us this is not safe, whether or not we know why. And that... But, like, if you look at, like, all of the major disasters and stuff, there's always that one or two people that have, like, decided, no, I'm not going to do this today. Even though I paid, like, $1,000 to go on this trip, I'm not going, you know?
Yeah.
And later on, they're like, that must be why, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, like, I mean, this woman I was talking to, like, the other day, she was like, I had an intuition moment that I shouldn't have gotten into the car this one day. And it was like, she just had a new car and completely totaled her car when somebody hit her and pushed her through the intersection with her grandson in the car, too.
Right.
And I tell you, when I have those premonitions, I cancel everything. I'm like, I'm not going. Like, no way. I really believe in that stuff.
Now, see, I'm kind of a psycho when it comes to that, too. So, I get it.
I'm bad.
I had one that was so bad on I-5 that I wouldn't allow anybody, and it got really to a point. There were certain people in the car, in the premonition, and a semi-truck. In the premonition, a semi-truck somebody pulls out in front of a semi truck that is carrying
Mhm.
a complete load of pipes, and
God.
the pipes go loose, and we're right behind the semi truck, and one of the pipes goes straight through the windshield and straight through the driver.
Yeah.
And my kid is behind the driver, and my kid, in a flash of a second, sees and bends down and doesn't get nailed. And it was about a year and a half before that vision came true, to where we were behind that vehicle and I lost my shit. I was like, get the F out of this lane, get over into the far right or the far left lane, and get ahead of this vehicle now. I mean, I lost my shit.
I am like that. There's loose things like that. I'm like, get away from me.
There's not very many times there's not very many times I will lose my shit on a driver, on somebody, whoever is driving. But that was like, and they're like, what's going on? I'm like, premonition, long time ago, get away from this vehicle. Now, do whatever you have to safely to get the hell away from this vehicle. Now, did somebody pull out? Yes. Were they in the wrong? Yes. Did the straps, because I prayed about that for almost the entire year and a half before this took place. I kept praying, make sure that semi driver triple and quadruple checks those straps, because they were straps. They were a very specific kind of strap. And that the driver who goes in front of him, who pulls in front of him, does not do this, and I was very specific. And that driver did not do that, and those pipes did not do that. They did not. So the accident ended up not happening.
Yeah.
But here is all the vehicles I saw in that vision, including the semi truck, same color, everything was exactly the same. So my point is that when you get something like that,
listen to it.
Listen to it. Get out of the area. Do whatever you need to, because I didn't know when this was going to happen.
See,
and this was many years ago.
I had one of those moments, like me and Cole were driving, and I think it was on the I-5, right, babe? Me and Cole were driving on the I-5, and I freaked out. I was like sitting in the passenger seat. I freaked out. I told him he needed to get off now. He needed to pull over now. He needed to get into the other lane. Whatever it was. Like, I was having like a panic attack, telling him he needed to do this. And he's like, why? Like, there's nothing. And I'm like, just do it now. And because my husband's my awesome husband, he was like, okay. You know? And he moved over into a different lane. And this truck that was in front of us, it started, like, kind of swaying and, like, half jackknifing into right where we would have been if we had stayed in that lane.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, we're okay now. Like, and it's almost like this, like, horrible, I don't know, between, like, adrenaline rush and, like, we're gonna die, like, feeling in you. That just, like, completely takes over, and when that moment happens, you're, like, screaming. Like, no, you need to do this now. Like, and it's very serious.
Yeah.
Like,
it's extremely serious. Right? I always say I have to listen or I will pay. And people are like, oh my God. I'm like, no, I'm serious.
Right?
Yeah, you
very
listen
serious.
to your
and for me, it's always been,
to get
it's
across.
always been
listen to your intuition. When you get something that is that strong, whether you have a vision of whatever the situation is or not, Most
or a
people
gift
don't.
or not.
No,
Yeah,
and that's
people
what
are
I'm
like,
saying.
Just
oh,
listen.
does that
That's
mean
what
I'm
I'm saying.
psychic?
It's like
I'm
when you're
no.
walking down the road and you see like random person number 7 in like a group of people, and something about random person 7 gives you like this horrible like
Creep
gut
beyond hell.
I call it
wrenching
the
like
willies.
fucking
Yeah.
scary feeling inside you. That means get the fuck away from that person. It doesn't
Yeah.
That
mean
happened to me today, actually.
you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, if you get
Yeah.
that feeling about somebody, like, don't
Yeah.
chance it. Just move the hell away and, like, go.
Yeah.
Because you
This
never
guy,
know
like,
what's
passed
going to
us in
happen,
cuisine
you know?
today, and I'm like, ooh. And my daughter
Well-
looked at me, and she's like, what? And I'm like, you don't need to know. But, you know, like, they kept on walking, so it was like, okay, that person. I
Yep.
just kept getting, like, murder, molester, rapist. Like,
right?
I just really had a vibe.
And there
you know?
are certain vibes that you get off of certain people. Now, whether or
Yes.
not that person actually ever would do anything or not doesn't actually matter at that point. What
No, it
matters
doesn't.
is
You
the
have to
fact
listen.
that you feel
listen.
safe and you listen to
Yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it can be completely wrong and you can completely just like offload your day by moving over or doing whatever. But what's that?
Sure.
What is that to you? That's like 10 seconds of your life that you won't get back.
Yeah.
But it's not your
Exactly.
entire life you won't get back. You know?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, oh yeah, you want me to start talking about the other thing? Because it's kind of interesting.
Absolutely.
Sure.
All this. Okay, so, all right. So I stumbled upon this this book from somebody else who told me about it. It's called Across Time and Death: A Mother's Search for Her Past Life Children. And it's by Jenny Cockle, and she has like basically her whole life since she was 3 years old. She has had memories of her past life, like in-depth major memories. So I'm just going to kind of like read you the back of the book for a second, just because I think it describes it like faster, and then I can go into more. But it says, for as long as she could remember, Jenny Cockle had known that she had lived before as Mary Sutton, a young Irish woman who had died over 20 years ago, 20 years before Jenny was born. Her constant dream / memory was of Mary dying alone and desperately worried about what happened to the 8 children she had and she was leaving behind. When at last her own children were born, Jenny finally acknowledged that she needed to find out what had happened to her lost family. Across Time and Death is a compelling story of a mother's love that reached from one lifetime to another to reclaim her children. In a voice so honest, plain, and sincere that you know her story must be true, Jenny Cockle writes of the dreams that haunted her childhood and painstaking search for the facts and details that confirmed the existence of her past life and the discovering fate of her family and their emotional reunion. Now, it's really interesting. So she was writing maps since she was 3 years old and telling her mother about like her children and like her feelings of an adult feelings of her children, their personalities, what they looked like, their ages, to like even memories, because she used to make their clothes, of her making these outfits and clothes for them, and being so poor that she would like turn coats for the boys inside out and then like reline them basically and sew buttons on, and how one would like, you know, be fanatically poking at the buttons, and she was worried that he would take the button off. It's just lots of different things. But interesting because she wrote maps her whole life, well, even into her 30s. And then she, you know, this is, again, before internet existed, guys. So it's like we got to go far back, right, to remember that that was like a thing that happened. But there is no way to really get maps. She's in England, but getting a map, it's not like you can just get on Amazon or go to Barnes & Noble, you know, or something. Or even the library, because the library probably didn't have it. She's in another country. And it's a little town in Ireland. And she mapped the whole town. She was like, okay, this is where the grocery store is. This is where the church is. This is this. This is that. She thought that she was Catholic in this life and remembered certain things about even attending other people's weddings and being witnesses because they didn't have witnesses. Shopping like at markets and thrift stores and bargaining and knowing that she didn't like the constant fear of not having enough money to feed her children all the time. Just major things. And then like when she was in her 30s, finally getting a hold of a map and then seeing that the lines coordinated and matched up with this like pretty much vision she's had since she was 3 of knowing her house. She could draw her house. She could draw her neighbor's house. And then when she finally got a map of everything, saw that it didn't exist anymore, but it used to be there. Mm-hmm. So when she finally did reach out through a few people, then she did find the kids who didn't believe her because, again, we got to remember that Ireland is extremely like Irish Catholic, right? Yeah. So, we're like, it's a whole thing of like, you're going to hell, right? So, because people want to stone me all the time for what I do, but it's like, okay, that is a hard barrier to like really work through when you're like, I'm your child.
I'm sorry. Was that yesterday's child?
Yeah, this is her past life.
Yeah, no, the book name was Yesterday's Child?
No. So this, okay. Yeah, so that's like kind of into the future. So yeah, like Across Time and Death is the book that I'm talking about now.
Oh, okay.
But there was movies that turned into, like they made a movie, kind of documentary-ish movie about her life. Mm-hmm. I think that's what you're talking about, right?
Okay, and, so because I have read some of her books, because she has like 6 books out.
Yes.
So I have read Yesterday's Children.
So they turned that into a movie in 2000.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And then there is that's a lot of the same stuff that you were just saying. That's why I was like, wait a minute, I remember this book.
It sounds familiar. Okay.
Yeah.
Because she's written a bunch of stuff, and I will say she remembers a lot of past lives, even going back like to like way prehistoric times, kind of thing in a way. Very interesting. And she also said she remembers future lives, like has like kind of like a premonition.
The premonition of a future life. Yes.
So which is interesting, and I will say it's like I think it's episode 147. It's the Phil Donahue show. I recommend for people to watch this because it's like almost an hour or something, or 45 minutes, but it is really amazing. How even like, of course I grew up with the Phil Donahue, but my mom like kind of never missed an episode, right? It's like you watch Guiding Light and that, but that like his expression, and I think that he was a very good, interviewer and tried to keep an open mind when he was like even trying to also in the same time shut this down because it's like I don't know if I really believe this in his face, his expressions, but. It's so interesting. But yeah, she does have a few books. Let's see here. And I think that I had, there was an article I found too, where they're talking about like, and it's actually in an Irish newspaper, like terrible dreams of being alone and in pain, not at home, and knowing that there was nothing that she could do to ensure the safety of her children's future. Mm-hmm. So basically what she found out was that her husband was never there, worked and I think he was a roofer, but he worked all the time and he lived kind of like somewhere else. I mean, kind of like in a really bad, like almost you would say like now homeless situation kind of a deal, like living in a barn, away from these children. She had 8 children. Unfortunately, one was a stillborn, and she talks about the entire full memory of giving birth to saying goodbye to the dead child and everything. It's really insanely vivid. And the nurse's reactions and what she said to her, how she even thought, like the things that she thought after the nurse talked to her. But it's really crazy. But she died, like the details of her death are basically she died, like I think at 37 in the 1930s in a hospital like basically alone at the age of 35. So she does reunite with the children. So there are like surviving children then. So they said there was like 5 of them left. But the sad thing is, since the husband was like, never present, and then we found out later that he probably was beating her, hitting her, was an alcoholic. But after she died, she has a vivid like reckoning of seeing herself dead in the hospital, basically, because she died alone and waiting there like a long time and seeing him come in and look at her body. And that is when she finally said she went up to heaven. I mean, it's crazy,
Right.
the stuff. But I'm like, oh my God, wow. So it's a really crazy kind of statements that she kind of has. But, you feel it's so vivid. You're like this, how would you not like, how would you get this much detail and, have all of this if this did not have happen to you? She even talks about being in heaven and having thoughts of, I want to go back, like teeter-tottering on, do I want to come back or not? And worrying about her children kind of then too. So her mother is the only one she really confided with, I think, like pretty much her whole life until later when she had, met her husband and then had her own child. And then she started, saying things and looking for the maps and finding people along the way. Even like one person was a priest, I think she said, because I'm still reading it, but was a priest who basically was like, I'm going to start talking to you about some like thoughts or people who have come to me or paranormal experiences, things like that she opened other people who were completely shut down to this belief. And then her having the understanding growing up since she was 3 that this is just normal. Why do people behave, like we don't have several lives? And telling her mother at the age of 3, like, well, that's just one of my lives. I have several. You know that you do too. And the mother's like, no. So kind of interesting how she's like, I had to like kind of go beyond that and realize that I couldn't be shy about it. And people are going to have their opinion and I'm going to have mine. They don't have to agree, but I'm not going to judge them if they don't judge me. And having open conversations. But it's very interesting. I mean, the things that you can find.
She has
and
several
she's written
books
several
on
stuff.
past lives. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, it's, I'm like, wow.
Like I said, I read the Yesterday's Child book. Oh, God. Probably about 10 years ago now. And it is a little bit of an eye-opener on that, too.
Interesting, yeah, because I mean, I wanted to, read this first and then go see what else is kind of out there and see like the documentary, kind of the movie. But I did watch a 2020 documentary of her. And that was interesting. So that shows her meeting the actual children. And the children are quite, then older than her right now.
Right.
They took her to the house and where it was, and it was in ruins. But she was like, this is the door, this is this is that. And she remembers the neighbor's house that was still like a distance away, but seeing it and could describe and draw both houses in the entire town. Who was like, this is the person who ran the store.
Without like ever going there up until that point. Like, yeah.
Right. And never having knowledge, and the thing is, too, she was so poor. She didn't have money until well into her past her 30s to be able to go.
Yeah.
So, and another interesting fact is tidbit. She looks like her former self. So they have the picture on the cover of the book of her holding her like, I think it was like kind of like last child that was born alive. Basically. So but if you cover up like her mouth to kind of nose, her face is exactly the same, like her eyes up.
Well, okay, so now that's an interesting point that you bring up, because I feel like everybody that's reincarnated into a future life has some remnants within them of their previous life. Okay?
Yeah.
So whether it's like your eye color or like it can be tiny little things, but there is something about your past life that brings on into your future life.
Well, it's interesting because I know of the lives that I have had prior to this, which I never believed in reincarnation at all. As a Catholic, it was like, that is just like not true. Like I just, boom, foot down, not talking about it.
Yeah.
This is just just an idea, that kind of thing. But found out the hard way doing readings for other people that I'm like, wait a minute, I'm seeing you. This is like a past life. Like you've lived through this before. And things like that kept happening to me until I had to face some stuff for myself. And then basically we were walking into, this is years ago, but I was walking into a building with my daughter and she turned to me and said something that really triggered me where I'm like, wait a minute. I think that I was this person that she's talking about. That she was randomly picking to do a report on, who was a family member of ours, like in the 1500s. And I'm like, whoa. And I was like, that is stupid that I just thought that. What the hell is wrong with you? And I walked in. She saw my face, though, and she's like, huh. And she thought it, too. And so I was getting my rods out to ask, like, questions to the person on the other side for my daughter for this report of stuff that we didn't know because they didn't document it back in 1500s, of course. And then all of a sudden my daughter just said, are you my mother? And my mother is you. And then I just was floored, like took 3 steps back and I heard, your mother already knows it. Why'd you even ask? And I was like, what the hell? I was blown away. And then after that, started realizing that things that I gravitated to, like in other lives, again, why I'm afraid of knives, which I'm just dumb enough to figure out like just a few days ago. I was literally lying in the pool and I'm like, what the hell am I afraid of knives for? And then all of a sudden I thought, oh, that makes sense because I was probably killed by some knife. Like, and then started having visions of that time frame and it's like everybody had a sword. Duh. I'm terrified because swords, I'm still terrified of swords. People start waving a sword around or like, hey, let me show you this cool sword. I'm out. I'm gone. Terrified so much of knives. I make my husband cut things all the time. I'm like, nope, I'm not doing it.
I love weapons, so that's we'd have some problems.
I'm just like, I will have a taser any day. I do not like any kind of knife. And I have a taser and mace in my purse.
Knives,
but I'm like,
swords,
no problem
chains,
using that. But not, I hate knives.
Guns.
But if you look, like, finding out, that this person was she was a relative, but I was related to her kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, okay, so wow. I kind of feel like, sometimes, like, random deja vu can be, like, you looking into a past life experience, and that's why you feel that, like, random deja vu.
Yep.
Because you would do that, like, I've lived this before,
about.
I've seen this before.
It's a prediction of before.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
Right. And it could be. I mean, I feel the same way. But yeah, like about the picture thing, sorry, but I actually looked up these, like, what the people look like, who, I feel, because I've had visions of it ever since that day. Just visions of, like, traumatic things or, like, just, like, I don't want to be here moments.
Right.
Christmas, like, where it's not at all like it is today, before electricity and the first, like, Christmas tree kind of deal. So seeing these things and, like, what the hell, like, being able to look down and feel the fabric and feel how it's heavy and it's odd and it's not made of anything that we would, we consider fabric today, any kind of material we use.
Silk back then.
Yeah, and like
Running
feeling
track.
hot, tired, weighed down, and uncomfortable, wearing shoes that I hated, and seeing people all around me. Like I can do like a 360 like kind of like thing around the room kind of deal and be like, whoa, as if it's happening and I'm sitting there right then. It's very odd. And having like other visions of writing books that I know I didn't write and things actually I don't agree with today. So I was looking up the person and what they looked like, and frick, I look just like her. It is insane, splitting image. And there's even another one that I knew I was, which is where the knives come in, and I look just exactly like that person too. Like I can put the picture up to like my face, and my daughter freaks out and runs away. And she's like, "It's just you're spooking the crap out of me. Like this is insane." But I have visions. And it's really interesting that we're doing this tonight because I don't have visions all the time. But there's a certain person that was in my life that I was, working with years ago that I tried to help, who ended up trying to take over my life and doing all this kind of stuff that was really mentally ill. And I kept trying to help this person. So I had to get rid of them in my life. And the visions kind of subsided. I think that the visions were trying to protect me because I had been through bad before. And it was like, hey, we've done this before. Like, I'm going to open your eyes so you understand that you've been had before in these past lives. And this is your wake-up call to get rid of this person. I think that happened. And that's why I was having a lot of visions back then of these past lives. But interesting we're doing this tonight because I completely forgot about everything. Just kind of like put my research like to the side here. We're going to do the show, placing it by my computer already. Like 5 hours later, then how I go to bed here because I'm in Ohio. So go to bed usually at 9, wake up at midnight to do the show. I had a ton of visions of a life that I've actually only had like maybe one vision really of. And it was really descriptive and things that I just didn't even know about before. And I'm like, oh, wow, that is really strange. So it's kind of interesting that I had that tonight. Where that's a life that I really just don't pick very much up on. But all the lives have a lot in common, except for one. I will say I've had one really fantastic life. And that's why I always joke that I'm going to get my cloud one day. And like, can I have like 5 minutes, to God before I start helping somebody? Because I never have like time. I'm always helping people. And it's like always just like for somebody else. But I did have like one really fantastic life in Rome, and I went to Rome. I always wanted to go to Italy my whole life, just crazy obsessed, even though I'm like 99% Irish. And my husband and I were walking around Rome, and I knew where it was. So he was like asking for directions everywhere and trying to say it in Italian and botching the hell out of it. And I'm like, I already know where we are. And I took him down like these 4, I'm talking like nobody would have followed me down these creepy alleys. Like tiny like alleys. I mean, they're not like car alleys. They're like, person size only alleys. And I mean, if we would have met a bad person like in one of those, it would have been bad. And he followed me, and then all of a sudden we popped out right in front of our destination that no tourist would have they couldn't have found it in any kind of book. I mean, it's just too hard to find. So stuff like that happens to me all the time. Like I remember yelling at him about recipes that were on menus that I insisted that I made. So how could they steal recipes? It was really, he was like, calm down. So it's just like funny things like that. But I think it's interesting how like the visions, and when I do have them, seem to kind of be like warnings and things that have happened to me, like similar. You're repeating again, like in a way, you're repeating the same kind of pattern.
I'm saying, like it's almost like a deja vu feeling.
Right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like this is mine. Yeah, this is mine. What the hell's going on? But it's like not, right? And it doesn't make any sense.
It's like when you go to sleep sometimes and you dream about like being able to do something, and then you realize, well, I can actually do that. Like I don't know why I can do that, but I've done that. Like you have that feeling of like, what? I shouldn't know how to do these things.
my visions were actually always awake. Like I would hear a song normally, and it would trigger it, and I'd have this vision, and I was always awake.
You're like
So
an audio person, like a.
It was weird. Like or I would be water is a huge conductor for me. I would be like in the shower or lying in the tub or doing dishes, and all of a sudden, the way I describe it, everything goes black, and it's like I'm seeing this movie that
I feel
is my life.
I feel like for different people, it's different senses. Okay, because certain people can get like a smell and it like brings them back.
Boom.
Other people can take a taste of something and it like brings them back to like, whoa, I feel like I've done this before. You know what I mean? And
I do. Well, and it's funny because one of mine, I love caves, but I'm crazy claustrophobic. That I've talked to you about that before.
Right. Yeah.
And I can go into any kind of cave with being the smallest kind of thing, and I'm like, I'm fine.
Okay.
And that is because of a past life.
I'll throw out something really weird that I have. And Cole can totally vouch for this. It is, I am terrified of the dark. Okay? But I am terrified of inside dark. If I am outside and it can be like pitch freaking black outside, and I'm totally fine. But if I am inside and a confined space or like a room or something like that, I have to have some kind of audible light. Like I have to have some kind of background light.
That is, I understand exactly what you're saying.
Only inside.
I do vouch for that. Kayla's crazy.
No, but it's weird because like I could walk for miles in pitch black out on the freeway or whatever, you know.
That's because you can't see shit. You shouldn't be walking on the freeway.
Oh yeah. On the highway. I meant to say highway.
Can't see what's going behind you. Yeah.
But yeah. But
I have to I'm not cool with darkness either. And I don't know though. It could be because I've always wondered about, is it because I'm gifted or is it because of the past life with the caves? I'm not really sure, but I feel like I remember a candle going through the caves, so I could always see.
There was
but being
always
afraid,
some kind of light. Yeah.
Yeah, but being afraid of like a rat or something, you know what I mean? Like just normal stuff like that. Right. But yeah, like this is interesting though because I've never had dreams of any of it. Yeah. Not at all. It was like not until tonight, which out of the ordinary, out of the blue, not thinking about the subject of this particular life at all, and just putting my stuff like to the side this morning before I left. It's like, okay, I'm coming back. It's all set up. Didn't even think about it. It's like, here's my alarm, going to bed. And I was like totally like Rosella out. I mean, dead to the world. I was so tired. So wasn't thinking about it. And all of a sudden having visions of like, like the dresses I wore, putting on the petticoats and remember hating it. Like in a different era than the 1500s.
Familiar.
Right.
So
now,
like,
totally familiar.
It was hot. You know, hot. And you were like,
yes.
I don't want to do this.
Hot,
and where's my parasol?
Stinky.
Now, for me, it's...
Oh my God, and the roads
totally,
were so gross.
It's totally the opposite for me, because most of the things and, okay, so, like, I don't know to chalk this up to, like, past lives, or just, like, because I was interested in a subject, or what. But, for me, I go to sleep, and I will have, like, sometimes a year or two in, like, this different life. Okay?
Wow.
And I will know how to do these things, and I'll know how to, like, move this equipment, or do stuff that I have no idea how to do. Okay? And then, like, maybe a year later, or 6 months later, or a week later, it doesn't matter. It's a period of time later, right? I'll be in a circumstance where I need to do whatever it was that I was doing in my dream, but I automatically know how to use the components or know how to move the things to make it work. Where I've never been in this machinery before. I've never been in this environment before. And all of a sudden I'm like able to completely do it without ever doing it before.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me because, I mean, I've seen patterns doing past life readings with other people, like even to myself, like sometimes they're related to a relative.
Yeah.
I've had this one person who knew of her own grave because it was right next to her dead relatives that she goes to visit every day in her tiny town, where I'm talking maybe 17 people live. I'm talking tiny. And she walks over her own grave like every week.
Right.
And she knew exactly the name that I was telling her and everything. I mean, how could I just pull this name out of nowhere and I don't even live in this town?
Right, exactly.
You know, or near it. So it's kind of crazy. But she was describing to me like certain things like that, attributing it to her life of jobs and things and why she can do things today that way.
Right.
And being afraid of kind of dying young and being happy that she made it past a certain age. And that was why, because the girl died when she was 18. But very interesting kind of stuff. But it's like, and I always want to like have like, okay, if I could have like just like 2 weeks to work like 12 to 14 jobs just to say I did because I'm interested in it. Like kind of like you described, it's like, am I interested in that because of a past life because I had, many experiences or jobs and that's what I'm used to, or I'm just interested in things because I'm just a curious person and I like to look things up and documentaries.
I guess like my biggest one for me, I used to work with a company that made solar panels for the Mars expedition, right?
Yeah, I remember you talking about that.
And I have never worked with solar panels. I had never had anything to do with solar panels. I live out in the middle of the country. I don't have them. I've never really seen like big, like, okay, I've seen solar panels obviously, but I've never seen them on that kind of a scale before. And I knew how to use a machine that not only the prompts for it were in a completely different language that I don't speak.
Wow.
But I got on that machine and I knew how to use it forward and backward from the time that I got onto it without ever having to be prompted in how to use it. And then moving on, I was like, well, that's fucking weird though, because I've never touched this technology. I shouldn't know how to do this without ever being told really how to do this, and with it being in a totally different language than I speak.
So let me ask you, do you know how to actually speak? Like sometimes do you know how to speak this language, but you maybe don't even know what you're saying?
I have no idea how to speak Mandarin. I don't know. How to do any part of it. But
I mean, because
looking at that machine, it was almost like I could look at the words and they just kind of popped into my head as what it should be, like in English in my head, saying,
That's a past lifetime.
You need to press X, Y, and Z, you know. But I have never studied Mandarin. I have never really seen Mandarin up until that point. But I somehow knew how to use this backward and forward, and I knew what it meant when it threw up a code or something like that. I was like, oh, okay, we'll do this, this, and this to fix it. But there was no reason to it. Because, no, I have never speak that language. I don't know that language. And if somebody were to come up to me and write or say that language, I would have no idea what they were saying.
So do you have, like, an urge to go to, to the country that you think that, you lived in? Because I have that kind of stuff all the time.
Now, for me, it's really weird. I don't have an urge to go to any country or any continent or anything like that. I have an urge to go to space itself.
Oh.
So
Okay.
I don't
Well,
know
let me
if
take
like
you.
maybe I was an alien or something in like a past life, but I have
Yeah,
Well,
you
heard
it
could have
could just
to
been.
mean you're an
like
astronaut. Like you
need
used to be
to
No,
an astronaut.
no,
go to
that's,
a different planet. It's not
Oh.
like an urge to go to space necessarily, but
Oh.
it's an urge to go. It's like
what
almost a
color's the
feeling of
planet?
like I need to go home.
Mm.
What color is the planet?
It's like a pinkish huge. It's like a pinkish hue.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like pulled to
That's not-
this, even though I don't even know if it exists. Like it's super weird. I don't even.
You and I need to have a conversation then privately, because what I have seen in this lifetime, being with the ETs, being in SSP and all that crap,
Mm-hmm.
combined with the fact of what Robert took me through, which is I thought was a portal, became a vortex,
Ooh.
through 7 different galaxies to
Realms.
get where we were going. Yeah,
Mhm.
realms, yeah. And there are a lot of planets that could easily be described as what you just described.
Now I
A
can
lot.
I can chart it on a star chart. Like I've given it to Cole before.
Can you?
Yes.
Oh my god.
I just don't know.
What?
And then I was
what
like,
section?
okay,
What
is
section
this
is
like real or is this something else? And then I've looked it up
No.
and I was like,
That's
no, that's actually like.
And you said going home, right?
Yeah, it's a weird
Okay,
feeling.
that's
So it's
that
like a
is
past life, but like a past life is like an ET, not like a
Yes.
human.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. That I hear that quite frequently from
Mhm.
people who remember their lifetimes
Mm-hmm.
as an ET.
Okay.
So yeah, that's very common for folks who have ET past lifetimes, because you can incarnate anywhere you choose. And a number of people that I've come across in the last few years have talked about the fact that they didn't choose Earth this time, they just got put here. Well, no, it doesn't exactly work like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they will try to debate with me, and I'm like, that's fine. That's what they
See,
believe.
that's what I'm saying is that I don't know because I'm not really up on any of this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
I know what
just-
you mean.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
But it's
I mean,
very
I'm going to put a
common.
different
It's
point of view
very
out
common.
there.
Mhm.
I have been told by the angels that that's not what happens, but basically that they say that once you're a human, you keep coming back as a human. If you're an animal, you keep coming back as an animal, is what
Okay.
I've been told.
And see,
But-
that's not what I get.
Because
interesting.
Raphael has told me that, like who I work with, but I think it is very interesting too. I just will throw that out that the archangels are actually named after pretty much like different planets and constellations. So I think it's kind of interesting. But I was wondering if you were actually maybe, I'm just throwing devil's advocate too, and an
Yeah,
idea.
no worries.
But
Yeah.
like maybe you're kind of in a way remembering something, but it's in the future. It was what I thought. So, but I, not sure. Because, like we're not going to have this planet probably someday. So, and then there's all these, how many movies, Matt Damon and all these other people have made, where we're going to this other planet. So, and you kind of described, it sounded like in a way, Mars. It could be. So I was just throwing something out there.
Yeah, no. And I mean, like, I don't know. I have no idea why I have those feelings or why I have you know what I mean? But, but I feel like it's like a draw to it. And it isn't, it's weird because I am not, I don't know how to put that any other way than I know I'm never going to space, like, obviously. I'm older. I can't. There's no way I can get there. But it's like I have always had this draw to outer space, and like when I watch movies, when I watch documentaries and stuff, it seems to always be space related that I'm going into. And it's like, why though? Because there's no reason for me to be doing this. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Well, and then that's why also when I saw like the Mandarin, it just kind of makes sense too, because like, you know, those different languages and that kind of thing too, and like could be the future of some kind of sort too, of making those things and, you know, like being some kind of like scientist or, you know, astronautish thing where you're traveling and doing this. So who knows? But, you know, just thought I'd throw something like that out there. I've just been, you know, told certain things. But, yeah.
No, and like
you
I
should
said,
have our Keith Andrews on because he has quite a bit of information on past lifetimes and remembers many of his past lifetimes, from Atlantis all the way back, way beyond being in human form, just like I do. I remember, I remember him. I remember our Keith Andrews. I remember there's long before any of us were ever in human form.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there are quite a few people that have memories of whether it's what we call ETs or being a hierarchy or being on the councils or any of it. It gets real interesting what people do and don't remember.
Yeah.
Right. It is, yeah. You know, yeah, it's a very interesting subject. I mean, like the more of these past life kind of things that I do with giving people readings, it seems to be a, you know, like coordination, like basically with like, all right, hey, this is something that I've always thought like and been drawn to in that aspect. Like, one client like was like, hey, I always felt like I was Jewish in another lifetime, and she's Jewish now, but she just was like, I really feel like this is like a country too I used to be like around, and I was Jewish, and these things that you're telling me, even my jobs, I've been drawn to, and they add up. Like having children being, you know, these names and dying maybe early, things like that being their worst fears. You know, fire, things like that, like a lot of times fire. And this last one that I just did with somebody like a few weeks ago, it was really tragic because they kept dying so young. Yeah. And it would be weird tragedies, but, you know, back then it really wasn't because everything was candle, you know, or gas lit. So it's like barns would be on fire pretty quickly and you lose like, you know, your whole farm. So how are you going to farm like without your barn and everything that is in your barn and your horses and all your equipment? So, you know, you would lose every single thing. But they always feared dying and feared the age 7 because they died at 7. Like, it was just really so sad. Right. But these tragedies and like some soul splits, which again, I never believed in before, but keep seeing some weird like things like that. And it's coming up even in my relatives that are gone, where they're like, oh no, I did a soul split. So it's like, what the heck? What? And I can talk to my one former self, but not any other former self. So why is that? And I feel it must be some kind of soul split.
Have you come across walk-ins?
Bodkin? Like an author or something?
Walk-ins. W-A-L-K. Walk-ins.
I've heard of the name.
No,
okay.
Ones that disappear. Like as if you're going in for a haircut and you do they take walk-ins?
Oh. Okay.
That walk-in type thing.
Oh, okay. No. I guess not.
Okay.
No.
I was like,
I'm walking here.
Super confused for a minute.
No, it's a soul where there's an agreement between the souls, and one soul walks in, and the other one that was born in that soul walks out.
Yep.
I
Well,
know
it made
people
sense
that
to
have
me.
had that. I know people that have had that happen. I know
Mhm.
a number of people actually
The,
where
I
that
mean,
has
you keep
happened.
telling me it's a soul split from the other side. The angels keep saying it's a soul split. Like, and it's weird because I've done
But that's
some
not what it
readings.
is. That the
Well,
walk-ins, that it's not a soul split. It's
they'll tell
literally
me,
an
It's a
agreement between
takeover.
yeah, it's literally what Robert said. It's literally a takeover. It's a trade-off between the two souls, and for whatever reason,
uh,
they may call it a soul split, but whatever we know it as is as a walk-in, and it's literally where the two souls have an agreement. One is born into the body, and the other soul is at whatever age, could be 15, could be 25, could be 55,
Mm-hmm.
and
mhm.
at that age, and the other soul is like, I'm ready, and you're wanting to go out, and they're like, and they switch. I do not understand how it is done. I just know it is done.
Okay.
And that it, because I don't comprehend how the soul cord can actually adjust for that, because it's literally, they both encompass the same body for a moment of time. And having a child, a spirit child, actually attach themselves to my soul cord, I can understand what that feels like only from that one experience. And Robert knows, because he's the one who was like, you're not only ET pregnant, you've got a spirit, a little boy attached.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thank you, because I felt like I was pregnant with twins.
Mm-hmm.
ET pregnant with twins, and they've never done that to me. So I've never had a hybrid pregnancy of twins. Yeah. So, and I needed validation and clarification, and Robert was like, "Oh my God, I've never seen this before." So, but
You just
yeah,
mentioned that conversation though between the two souls.
I can't even fathom.
Once this sucker hits 88, you're in for some serious shit.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even honestly fathom the agreement, the fact that this takes place. I mean, but I know people that they have a different personality when it happens.
Okay, but
they've got the same face, the same body, the everything, and I'm like, what the hell?
Cole has a
They've just been
question.
taken over.
Cole has
Yeah,
a
go
question.
for it.
What happens if they have a disagreement?
I have not a goddamn clue.
Like,
Internal
because,
conflict?
or is that
See, that's the
is
funny
that
thing
possession?
I will get yelled at by my former self sometimes, and will be called like, hey, you know, this is stupid. You already know what to do, or you know this, you know better. And I mean, I'm going to say, like, yeah, what you guys are talking about.
Wait. You get told that by your soul? Is that what you
By
mean?
my former self.
What do you mean, your former self?
So my past life.
Your past life.
Yeah.
Person.
Okay, so that's your soul talking to, okay, what's taking place there?
That's still part of you.
That's still part of you, but it's your soul it's your core of your soul actually talking to the psychology part of your head, of what you have now in your brain. And
but
so
when I see it, like, she comes and she brings her whole family with her that I can see. So husband and children, and I can see them.
That's because that's how you remember it. That's how you remember it from that past lifetime.
Well, it could be true. Yeah, I mean, she'll tell me things like, you know, she's very blunt and extremely to the, like, you know, curt, I would say.
Yeah.
But back then, that's how it was.
That's it. Yeah, it's just what I was going to say.
That's really how it was. I mean, yeah, it's just like, this is just it. But yeah,
that's
like,
how they talk to each other.
And but they've just kind of like, yeah, like told me like there's people who can live.
Robert.
Like, I don't know about kind of going and switching.
Going crack in the face.
But I don't know about like the switching. I've not seen any kind of like the switching or anything like that. But when I've done readings for other people, I've seen people reincarnate, and and what I'm talking about is like the soul split is like what they're kind of showing me is pretty much 50% of that person's soul goes like, hey, okay, going back to earth. The other one stays in heaven. So she's telling me she's talking to me from heaven, that she has her children with her and her husband, because she was married several times.
That actually makes sense. That actually makes sense because what takes place with that is that her physical body is dead.
Yeah.
But her soul is with you. But the other side has the remnants of that soul to be able to keep talking to you, which is what happens when you have an incarnation. When you incarnate, there are soul fragments. This is how we talk to people like who've reincarnated already, but they have that remnant. And you go into the Akashic records and you can find this out. They'll have remnants of that soul that will come back and still has the energy or their guide. To communicate, or their guide or some other form of it will bring that energy to you.
But this is interesting because the other people will not talk to me. I cannot communicate with them. Nope. And God says, nope, that's it. No. Because it's like...
Then that tells me you're not ready yet.
Well, I mean, they're never going to talk to me, is what I've been told. It will never happen.
Really?
Yeah.
See, that's not what I get at all.
Okay. Like, I don't know. I feel like the strongest person, is this person out of all the lives was the strongest person. And historically, very accurate to a point. But, there's I just feel like it was like, okay, so I'm the reincarnated, moved on to this life, even though the other one stayed there. I'm now it's like almost like I took them all with me, but that one stayed behind to almost advise me. It's just kind of interesting.
An interesting way to describe it, because that's not at all how I know it at all.
That's what I've been kind of, and I've talked to Mike. I think I've told you several times where there's a grandparent who comes through. It's a married into the family grandparent, so it's like an in-law grandparent, but. Took care of them as they were dying, but she comes back to tell me things often where she had a soul split. So she's been living, I think 6 years now, maybe 5 years in another state in America, where she's told me kind of where she is, vicinity. But she's 6 years old or something, living and is a female, and she can still talk to me. Once in a while, but it's harder to get sometimes a hold of her these days when I really want her. But I've been told that is a soul split in a way that so her imprint in time can keep talking to me as that true soul that she was with that person, but she's still living. And I've asked her a lot, tell me, explain. She's like, you don't get it because your human mind cannot understand and wrap your mind around this.
Yep.
But when you're
exactly
dead,
what I get from the ETs.
You'll know. So when you're dead, you'll know everything. And I've been told that since doing all these readings. Once you're dead, you immediately know every single thing, everything about every family member.
No, that's not necessarily true with everybody. Not everybody knows everything after they die. I have spirits that do not understand certain things, and I'm like, why are you not told? Why are you not?
I'll have that sometimes, but it's because they don't want to see it. They're like, I don't want to know.
Yeah, and these people are the ones that do want to know, and they're not allowed to see it. So
I've not had that before.
There's a real mix amongst us psychics regarding this very subject, because I hear a mix of this quite often about that very subject, about how we are supposed to know. And yet, many on the other side, it's not about, for them, the ones that I come across, it's not about them not wanting to know or they're afraid of it. It's It's literally about their not being allowed. And that calls in that calls into so many questions as to why. I mean, it's not just why. It's let's get down into the nitty-gritty of why. Because is it something that the soul, yeah, that's just what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Is it something that soul isn't supposed to know right now? And then, like with my mom, I know she knows. My family, my ancient family, I know they know. I also know that there's at least 3 of my family members who do not know because they don't want to know.
Right.
But
makes sense.
Yeah, and yet I have who the hell was it that came to me recently?
It's also divine timing, where I think that you
it.
might know later. I believe in that timing.
How long do you have to be on the other side before you're allowed to know? That's the
or
other
if
side
the other person's like, ready. So like, I've had some people like, okay, I don't know who my father is. And I'm like, okay, well, give me some possible names that it could be. And then named the guy, called on the guy, and he's like, oh my God, I always thought there was something and a possibility.
Yeah.
But I was told I wasn't ready to understand or know yet. But until she was ready to like know and talk to him, he couldn't be ready.
Yeah.
So that was a very different case. I haven't had that much, but I do believe that there's divine timing across time, whether living or dead. So,
well,
but
I've got 103 past lifetimes that I remember. And
I've never had anybody go beyond 11 in what I've done.
Really?
Like readings. No. One person had 7.
I remember 103 of them because of the fact, I mean, it's just, and I make no bones about it. I'm not naming names publicly. There are things that I do not say bullshit one about publicly because it's nobody's freaking business. But there are some, I do have favorite lifetimes. My lifetime in Russia, my lifetime as a Native American, this lifetime's been rather interesting. It's creeping up on the list, but it's only because of my abilities and what I'm remembering and the fact that I'm being able to help different people and all of that kind of stuff. But although I'm really pissed off at death and people that die, and it's not the people it's the actual act that I'm getting pissed off for. But
this is why I always tell you guys I'm not coming back.
I've had over 30 people die in my lifetimes, in this lifetime, and I'm fed the fuck up with the act of dying. So, I mean, I get it. I get all of that. And I deal with death very differently. This last one did me in, though. I do have to say, my mom did me in, but this last one last week was just, I lost my shit over it. But anyway, and I'm still not okay with it. But the point is that when you go through things in the life that you're living now, there are so many factors to what our soul remembers. And the things that we react to in this lifetime, you're also trying to break patterns in this lifetime so that you do not continue on with those patterns in the next lifetime. So you don't have to repeat your freaking lessons that you're supposed to learn. And I know so many people that are like, I'm so sick and tired of these goddamn lessons. That. And I'm like,
yeah, me too.
But they're there. I can say the same thing, but they're there for a purpose. Those lessons are there for a purpose because you have to break, whether it's generational patterns, whether it's patterns within yourself, within your soul. Those are things that must be broken in order for your soul to move forward in a positive, constructive, healthier fashion.
And like I said, like I only had one happy life.
You'll repeat those patterns over and over and over again until you break them. And let me
Well,
tell
and
you,
it's
this
interesting
lifetime
because
for
I
me
had
has
one
been
happy
an
life
incredible.
where the pattern was broken, but then now I come back and I'm repeating the same patterns from the other 3 lives. So, that, is the same kind of pattern.
Uh,
So I think it's kind of interesting how it's like, okay, well, I'm going to give you, and I think that God gives you in a way like the lessons and things like that. But that's my perspective just because of like, what I've seen, what I like do and my like, just why did this happen? But I had like one happy life, then came back and now I'm doing all of this stuff. But going back to those breaking the same patterns from the past 3 lives, that sucked. You know what I mean? So it's like, this is interesting because thrown in there in between, it's like, I'm going to give you one really good one because here's your last. I swear. It's like, I think it's known I don't want to come back and, do it again. That's how I feel anyway. But like, Kayla, like with fire, you might have another life where you have to face the fire again. And somehow maybe until you face it, maybe it won't be broken. It's just a theory too. But I mean, I'm afraid of some fire stuff too. I'm afraid of like, okay, I'm like people like if I die, I want to be buried. And I have specific instructions and feelings that I have to be buried. I can't tell you, I don't know why. But I'm afraid and terrified of like being dead and being like cremated. So that's got to be from something, some kind of past life. But I just throwing stuff out there of just like,
Right.
feelings and things like that I have. And I'm like, I don't even still even sometimes know why. But yeah.
Right.
Well, I remember being in the pool, the soul pool that we all originated from. I mean, I remember all the way back to that pool. I mean, that goes beyond lifetimes.
Right.
So, it's just really fascinating to me.
Can I throw out some numbers for you guys quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so first of all, when asked Google, the AI gives this answer on what's the average number of past lives people remember.
Okay.
There isn't a universally agreed upon average number of past lives people remember because memories of past lives are not a scientifically recognized phenomenon.
Right.
Yep.
However, studies suggest that some individuals, particularly children, may report memories of past lives, but these memories often fade and change as they get older. Now,
yes.
So I looked up some of the studies, and from looking at 5 of them, the average remembered is 40 to 60.
Wow.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
And the amount of people on Earth at any given time that actually remember a past life at all is 20%.
Yeah.
That's high.
Well,
20% is like shocking to me.
Yeah,
so
that's
if
huge.
you think about 20%
That's not to
of
me.
human beings remembering some form of past life. Okay, and this is just the ones that reported that they remembered. Okay, because you got to think, like, there's some that are like, they're going to think I'm a freak. I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Right.
So I'm assuming it's probably closer to like 50% if you get the skeptics out of that too. You know what I mean?
Or 60.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. That's very interesting.
If that amount of people globally are remembering that something happened before now, that there is something before, there is something after, whatever it is that they're feeling, as far as past lives, future lives, everything else, then there's got to be some merit in that. There's got to be a reason that this many people believe this. And 20% of them believe it enough to say they believe it.
Yeah. Yeah,
there has to be merit in that. Because anytime that, like, more than 10% of people say that, yes, this happened, it means realistically more like 50% actually believe it, but the other 40% didn't want to say so because they thought that people would look at them weird or whatever.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
looking at 20%, then it's closer to 50-60% that actually have these experiences.
Well, and it's interesting. Like the woman who actually gave me this book, she gave it to me because she she did have a past life she told me about. She came to me because she was like, I have a lot of stories I can tell you about weird experiences or freaky kind of things.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that she's a psychic medium or anything like that because she didn't sound like that. She just sounded like she was like, kind of like what you're saying, like, hey, Kate, like with Kayla, you're like, I remember, like, you know, being able to how to do this machine, things like that.
Yeah.
And she's like, I remember crying every single night, and it's kind of like, you know, very significant, same pattern with that, like that ghost inside my child, like thing with the kids remembering through dreams their past life and reliving their death over and over again. And she had that since she was the age of 2 and woke up describing things to her mother using extremely adult words about a fire and being afraid of their house burning down, but describing other siblings that weren't there and pets. So she's had this her whole life.
So if you look at like actual human existence from a scientific standpoint, okay?
Right.
And there are certain things we know how to do.
That's right. Deja vu-ish things, right?
No, I mean like from birth, we know how to do these things. And there is no reason that we should know how to do these things. And they say, well, they're in your genetics, they're in your... But genetics or not, you still shouldn't be able to pick up like a computer and be able to use it without ever knowing what one was.
Our soul has body muscle memory.
Right.
Just like the physical body has.
That's exactly what I'm saying, is that we know these things passed down from generation to generation, and we call it like, we can say that it is, oh God, what's the word I'm looking for? Evolution, or we can say that it's because it was passed down, or because it was this, or because your mother was this, so therefore you know how to do this. But there are certain things that we innately know how to do from a very small child that we shouldn't know how to do. Like, we just automatically are able to do that. Okay? And looking at genetics, looking at everything like that, yeah, we have the genetic buildup to be able to figure out how to do that, but we shouldn't automatically know how to do it.
Well, I think it's interesting about how, like, you know, even, you know, Nikki was saying too, like, you kind of repeat things. You know, like I have visions of writing a book with a quill, and it was the 1500s. And, you know, wearing those outfits and things like that and being like, God, I hate this. I'm miserable and uncomfortable. Like, you know, there's no air conditioning.
Yeah.
You know?
But the fact that you even remember writing with a quill in the 1500s is a big deal, because if you were a woman, you were not taught that. In the 1500s, you were not allowed.
Yes. Yeah, and I think it's because it's like a royalty thing. I think I was like educated to a certain
point. And I mean, not only that, but back then you could have been a male. Like, you're not necessarily reincarnated into the same gender that you were before.
No, you're not.
No.
I have lifetimes where I remember I have 2 lifetimes as a Roman soldier. I freaking hated those 2 lifetimes. One of the 2 worst lifetimes ever, because of how Roman soldiers were treated. And so many other factors. What I was going to say before that was that I also have a lifetime as a male in England, and I was upper echelon. I can't think of what not royalty. I cannot think of.
I get what
wasn't
you're saying.
A duke, but I can't remember the name of what I was called back then. But anyway, point being, and I've got numerous lifetimes as a female. Matter of fact, in Russia, that lifetime, I was a male.
Now,
And I had wonderful sisters that are in my lifetime this lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, during my readings, I'll have gender switches. Yeah, like not. It's most of the time.
I'm not trying to be like that politically incorrect person here or anything by that means, but
yeah, no,
I really do believe that certain people, and the reason that they feel better in either a female or male form, even though they are not born that way, is because
of
past lifetimes. Because they were female for so long that this is maybe their first reincarnation as a male, and
they don't like it.
They feel weird within their own skin because that is not who they actually are. Like in their mind eyes. You know what I mean?
I have a few friends who are transgender and dear friends, and I already know that one of them was so many lifetimes. I was trying to figure out how to word this. So many lifetimes as a female. This lifetime became a male.
It's hard to be a male because you don't feel comfortable in your own body.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they completely transitioned physically over to female.
And that's what I'm saying, is if you've only had like 4 or 5 reincarnations or less or more, but they've all been one gender, moving to a different gender is going to be a completely... It's going to be a mindfuck for you because that is not how you feel and that's not who you are inside, because it really genuinely isn't based off of past lifetimes and based off of past experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, mine all were females that I remember and know of and been told by the other side, yes, this actually happened. Where I'm like, this can't be real. Like, I mean, what is this? I feel like I'm crazy. And they're like, no, this is like what happened. But it's specifically male narcissism and dominance and trauma.
Yeah.
And fighting
from
through
history. That's history.
That's true.
History on this planet.
And
it's not just history on this planet, it's history on other planets too.
Well, and I had one good life, but I don't remember a husband in that life. I remember having a ton of children and like running a restaurant in Rome and being independent and in charge of my entire family and kind of like leading. I don't remember a husband, and maybe he died, you know what I mean, young or something. It's like, who knows? Or went into the war or something like that and, you know, didn't come back.
Wasn't around for whatever reason. Yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, it seems to be the same patterns, you know what I mean, see, besides that life.
The other thing with that is how do I put this? If you were not only so used to being one gender or anything like that, but also if you had a proclivity to something that is thought to be one-sided. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you were really good at fighting, okay, and you were like a soldier in all these past lives, so you're like this amazing fighter, like, and we pick up these things that we do where you're just naturally good at, okay? So there's always that kid that's like, the best baseball player you've ever seen, and you're like, why is he so much freaking better than all the other kids his age when he has the same amount of practice, same amount of time, same amount of everything? He's just next level better. And we call it like natural talents, or we call it like, oh, they have a gift in this or that. You know,
Mozart.
All of that has to come from somewhere originally. Like, it cannot be just that somebody can pick up a piano or pick up an instrument or pick up math, like, out of nowhere.
Right.
Okay? So, that doesn't just happen. Like, we can't just all of a sudden
and it's interesting
be able
because, like,
to do these things.
Like, I'm very unique in my family where, I mean, there's really nobody else like me genetically on, like, in my family. Yeah, because it's, like, my family's like, this is just like, hey, this is what you do. Everybody's, does this kind of stuff. Like, this is unheard of. We can't believe you're doing this kind of thing.
Right.
My sister she's a political writer, but that's the writing stuff. Like, I started writing before she did.
Yeah, but that's a totally different style,
things like that,
too.
but totally different. Yeah. So, like, the things that I talk about, she's like, I don't like to talk about that. So she hates paranormal or any of these things. She's like, I just want to deal with, like, black and white politics. You did this. Here's the proof. Throw it in your face. We're done.
Yeah.
So very different.
So she's very A to B ready, where like you're everywhere. Yeah.
I feel like very alien in my family most of the time. So it's like, and I think there's only one person who knows really what I do. Like, outside of my pretty much brother and mom. Pretty much, like my sister a little bit, but she doesn't have an interest, so she doesn't ask very many questions. Right. But if there is something happening to her and I can feel it, I'm like, hey, I'm sending this, like sending the angels to you. This is what they're saying. Here's your instructions. She will listen if it's like an emergency, and she does carry it out. And she's like, I'm so glad you told me.
Right.
But, beyond that, she's like, I don't want to talk about it again.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
Some superstitious or something, but yeah, so
well, and
it's
that
like,
might be some kind of, honestly, for her, like, past life thing as well, because
I feel like,
I mean, like, everybody's
right.
So if we have a soul that's just continuously reincarnated into other beings, okay,
right,
you still have the initial traumas of the original soul and every soul that has lived past then in the body that you live in now, plus your own everyday traumas. Okay?
Yes.
So,
there's a lot of trauma back
to, like...
Oh, especially if you've got over 1,000. Yeah,
I mean, when it comes to certain things happening...
Old souls.
You not only think about right now trauma in this everyday age... But you think about every past trauma that could have possibly been.
That also turns into everyday fears sometimes in this life.
Exactly.
Like, hence my swords or knives. Yeah, so your fire.
Right. So, I mean, like, yeah.
Or the rope around my neck.
Right.
True
so,
that,
I mean, like, it's a good thing in the fact that we can move ourselves away from danger and we can live better because of this or that, but it also can be a hindrance depending on how much trauma that past life went through.
Right. I think it's you either learn and grow from it with understanding that's what it could be, so learning and growing from it in that aspect to be open-minded. Right.
Right.
Yeah, there are some people who are like, I read the end of the novel all the time because I fear I might die.
Well,
and I'm like, damn, I don't want to be like that.
There is like, there are people that...
Fear really screws with people.
Really?
Will have, let's say, mental issues, mental breakdowns, something of that nature, where there's no actual reason in their everyday life for that to have happened. Because there's been no massive amount of trauma. There's been no... but it doesn't mean that their soul itself hasn't been through that.
Right, and it's interesting because that's what Jenny actually talks about too in the book, about having memories of having stillborn children another time and saying, at least this time I got to say goodbye, because before I was not... She felt she was not allowed in some way, but she didn't know why or what happened. But then she remembered everything this nurse said to her to say goodbye and why it was important.
And now I feel like that's also like a thing with so we get certain people who are like total hypochondriacs. So the second that they get a little bit of a cough or their throat feels scratchy or something of that nature, they automatically go to, oh my god, it's fucking death. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, maybe for that person in their past life, they had a fever and said, nah, it's nothing, you know. And ended up actually dying of like scarlet fever or something of that nature. So
also you can have in this life, or hey, that was your form of attention that you only got because your family was really huge. So if you were sick, you got attention. So you're like have to label it correctly and really search yourself.
Now, I mean, I know that not everything we can say is because of a past life. Okay, obviously we have our own traumas in this life that we have to deal with as well.
Right.
But I feel like certain innate traumas that people have that there really is no reason behind them.
You're right, yeah.
Because of something that may have happened to them before this lifetime.
Right. Or some kind of future premonition. And, like you said about the car accident with, like, Cole was driving, get over here.
And because we are human beings, unfortunately, human beings automatically go to the worst possible outcome versus the best possible outcome. Just, it's human nature to go to, oh my god, this could happen and that could happen. And it, like, snowballs into this, like, horrible thing. But...
overthinking sucks.
Exactly. So, with that being said, and us innately being the people that go, oh my god, negative, 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 well, the only thing that might pass over from certain past lives would be that negative aspect just because that's the strongest thing from it.
I believe that could be true. I mean, it's a part of our daily lives every day. I have to say I do remember only from the Italian life, good things. I don't
everything else is like a negative thing that's moving over with you.
Right. And the other stuff
because our negatives, and that's the thing is our negative senses.
Yeah.
I've got a lifetime where I was in France and I was a political person in Marie Antoinette's
like heir?
No, I was a male in that lifetime, and I was part of the political people that she privately talked to. And to this day, I can't handle the sound of what sounds like a guillotine. Because I was about less than 20 feet from when she got beheaded.
Oh, okay.
And so to this day, I can't handle certain sounds. And I'm like, where the hell did that come from? And then I started remembering the lifetime, and I went, oh my God. And I was not a nice person back then. I was a man. I was not and I'm not saying that specific gender was not a nice, but I'm saying,
well,
you political in that parties form were not nice.
Oh, I would, I was not nice. I was not a nice person.
Guys, I'm gonna.
So lifetimes get really wonky. Sorry.
Right.
All right, guys.
What, Paul?
I am going to cut you off here. I'm sorry. It is 11:58.
Well, that went by super fast.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Okay.
So, before we go, there is no show next week. There is
that's right.
a lot happening in the start of July for a lot of us. And
yes, there is.
I do want to do one PSA, but we're going to do it in a fun way. So, tomorrow in 10 or in 1 minute is July 4th. Friend.
Oh.
So,
right? Wow.
There are certain times you should call 911 on July 4th. There are certain times you shouldn't. So I want you guys to give me the yes or no of whether you should be calling 911. Okay?
All right.
Okay.
people are setting off fireworks.
911
No.
automatically.
No.
Depends.
This is a no
after a certain
firework
area.
area.
Just people are setting off fireworks.
If they're on fire, yes. If they're
Hold
not
on.
and just
No,
shooting them off,
just-
no.
It's a yes or no.
Yeah, I know.
Just people are setting off fireworks. That's it.
Yes.
No.
If I'm Nikki, I'm
No.
saying
People
yes.
have just set their house on fire.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Okay. My wife is too upset to sleep.
No.
What?
No.
My
No.
wife won't wake up.
Yes.
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 Okay. Firework
Like a
debris.
survey.
Firework debris is landing in my yard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I would. That's a fire department
Just
issue.
debris. No, just debris. Nothing on fire. But just the
Oh.
regular, paper.
Yes, I got
No.
a concussion from the little parachute
Oh,
man
whatever.
that hit me in the head.
Sparks, yeah. Like embers.
Nope.
Yeah.
Sparks,
yes.
yes. Ambers, yes.
This is just paper.
But debris that's not on fire, that is not heat. No.
Who has called
Whoa,
911?
wait a minute.
hold on,
Doesn't
hold
that
on.
count as littering?
Body parts are landing in my yard.
Yes.
Nah.
My cat is upset and hiding.
Did it
No.
blow
Oh,
up?
for fuck's sake.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
My cat is shooting back.
Jesus.
What in the-
Yeah,
that
but
was
then-
issues
Okay,
here.
honestly, in that case,
Yeah.
no. I would call Guinness.
Asshole.
Not
I think 911 would hang up on you for that one.
Yeah.
Ladies
that's
and
what I'm
gentlemen,
Yeah.
911 is a
reporting.
serious thing. Use it
Yes, it
wisely.
is. Thank
Fred.
you. Agreed.
That's all that's trying to get out, but that's awesome. Fred,
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
I have
Wouldn't
actually
you-
called 911 before on neighbors on the other side because they were shooting them above their dumb, huge tree. And it was right next to my neighbor's roof. So I did call 911. I am one of those people I will
Oh
call
my God,
911.
Karen. No.
I'm like pissed. I'm like, no. Because it's just like, all these houses are going to start catching on fire. No.
Okay. Now, I will say that one 4th of July, we were setting fireworks off, and this was in Linwood before it was illegal to do, down on like Damson Road area,
Ooh.
and we were shooting fireworks off, and we looked over to the school that was next to us, and we saw a giant fire over there. Okay.
Oh.
on top of the school.
On top of the school, and went, oh,
God.
fuck. So we called 911.
That's a call.
But it had been a kid who had set off fireworks, but didn't know they were re-roofing the school. So all of the materials for re-roofing
Oh,
and
God,
all of
they
the
went up in
propane
flames.
tanks
Jesus.
and everything were all in the portable outside of the school.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
his
That's like 5
firework
years
had
ago
gone
here.
in there and set off the roofing tiles, which set off all the propane tanks.
Oh, my
Damn.
God.
See,
So
this
it was
is
this
why you just call.
Huge freaking explosion, and man, it melted half of that school. But
Well, in Ohio, it's illegal to even shoot them off unless
Is
it's
it?
professional. Yes.
Wow.
Well, you
Oh,
can't.
that's
You
crazy.
cannot do.
Mm.
You
Same here.
cannot do it here now. You
Well,
cannot
in
do
your
it here.
county. Our
Yeah.
county's still good.
And
So-
in my
Australia,
yeah,
Australia's had
Canada.
that rule for
Ours is
ages.
state.
Okay.
even in unincorporated now, you cannot. It's
so in
fully illegal.
unincorporated Skagit County, where we are, we're still able to set off pretty much anything as long as it's a legal firework. But people
Wow.
set off illegal ones all the time because
Oh, I'm
we
sure.
have all
Oh, yeah.
the reservations and everything around here, and they buy M80s and all kinds of shit and blow shit up.
Mhm.
But
Oh,
and sometimes, seriously, it feels like a war zone out there because we have like bomb number
Oh, I'm
1,
sure.
2, and 3 going off, and I'm like, holy shit, that had to uproot half of your house, bro. Like,
yeah. And it
Yeah.
kind of pisses me off, like, if they go past a certain time, it's like, okay, it is now 11:30, you knock it off now.
oh
like,
God. I
Then I
wish,
call.
mine,
I
Ours go
wish
till 3 a.m.
that they would stop at 11:30.
yeah, that's just
Ours
what
are
I,
like
that's
3,
just what I
4
was gonna
a.m.
say.
Yeah.
Aren't you guys in the country?
Yeah.
Two
Yeah. We're way out.
See,
Two-
we're in
but
this
two in-
neighborhood with an
I'm
ordinance
in
and
a
everything.
city.
Like,
I'm in a city, and not last year, the year before last, when we lived for 8 years in a specific residential area of,
Mhm.
I'm not going to say where publicly,
Well, yeah, you just don't have to. Yeah.
but the point is that they went off until between 1 and 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
We're talking a tight-knit residential area with churches,
Community.
with businesses,
Right. Yeah. That
residential.
ticks me
I
off.
mean,
Now, see,
And
us out here, I
it's-
expect
you just
shit to be
expect
going
it
off
every
all
year.
night long
this year's
until
been
the
the
wee
quietest
hours
I've ever
of the
heard.
morning.
Uh-huh.
And actually, I will say this year has been rather quiet in comparison to
Yeah.
previous years.
Yeah, this year.
I
here
hope this
is
year
the-
is quiet.
I've only heard one this year so far.
Now,
Yeah,
And
we have a lot of
I'm
kids
like, wow.
and elderly people. You know, it's like, you can't. No, you know, some people just a lot of trigger trauma. People around here too is like, knock it off. Okay, we all know these people are living here. Just cut it out. So
Now here's
it's
a
rude.
question: how many people know the difference between a firework, a real firework, and a weapons fire, like a handgun or a shotgun? There is a difference, and if
Oh yeah,
you've
there's a
been around,
difference.
if you've been around sound for
Mhm.
any length of time in any one of those arenas, you know the difference.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
And it-
you
yeah.
know, there's
Well,
also that goes
to
on
a point,
too for
to a
some
point.
people.
To a point, and there
Yeah,
are
that's true.
because
certain
there
firearms
are
There's- I
certain
do-
firearms
that
that
sound.
I have shot off that
Yep.
sound like a firework exactly because they are the same caliber.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
For
Yeah, here you don't hear guns that much. Once in a while you will hear it and you're like,
No,
what the
you do
hell's
hear.
going on? But
Actually,
hear 'em here
okay, so
every day.
not
Once in a
this
while.
last Memorial Weekend, but the Memorial Weekend before, we were all sitting out by the fire, and all of a sudden there were bullets zipping past
Yeah.
our heads.
Shit.
Holy shit!
You could
That's-
hear
that's what I
Yeah.
worry about.
Because
hear the
some
whip.
dumbass down the road that rented an Airbnb thought there was a
Oh.
berm in between the houses and where he was firing,
Fucking hell!
when there absolutely wasn't. We had one of our neighbors that had like 20 bullet holes in their house.
Okay,
Side.
that's a 911 call.
Oh, it
Yeah.
definitely
Big time.
was.
Yeah.
We definitely called 911 on that. And one of our neighbors that was riding a horse
Wow.
with his grandson almost actually got shot.
Oh,
So-
my
Oh
God.
my
Fred,
god!
well, I will say though,
Yep,
Kayla's mom got to the
people need
guys
to realize
Yeah,
how far
okay.
bullets go.
before the cops.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my mom went down. She drove down because she heard all these fires and everything, like all the firing, and she knew what it was immediately because that's my mom. And she
Yeah.
jumped in her
Oh,
truck, drove down, saw where people were like target practicing a few roads down.
Mhm.
Jumped out of her truck and said, "You fucking idiots! I'm telling you, there's houses over there, and that's my grandkids. You
Yep.
stop firing, or I'm calling the cops right now."
Good job.
Good
And
for
it
her.
was
Yeah, grandma.
it was people that they were visiting from Florida and had rented the Airbnb there, and had thought that there was a berm, but there was not.
All right,
Yeah.
guys, we do got to shut it down. I've got 3 more
Yeah.
things I want to say to our listeners. Number one, to all those in Canada, happy Canada Day yesterday. Fran, I hope
Yes.
you had a
Yeah.
good time.
Oh, I thought you were an astronaut all of a sudden. That was
Oh.
super weird looking.
Fran, to all of the people in the U.S., happy Independence Day in 2 days. Try and remember.
And
Try,
don't
like,
blow your fingers off.
have a great, safe holiday. Remember, though, someone in the United States, the 4th is the last day they will have 10 fingers.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Mm.
Fran, and
Easy.
on a final note,
Emergency room workers.
Finger a
not
day.
coffee.
for everyone across the world,
365 fingers.
as of now, we are officially closer to 2050 than we are to 2000.
Off the air.
Son of a
How do you guys
bitch.
feel?
Old as shit.
Hey, Cole, can I say one thing really quick?
Yes.
Okay, I still have some slots available for July 9th. then next Wednesday, and at the Cherry Street Bottle Shop in downtown Troy. Please get on my Facebook page under events, and you can see a link to book. It is the rates are cheaper, and you get a free glass of wine. So, if you're interested, please look at my events page at Readings by Rosella.
Hey,
Okay.
Rosella, just really quick. What
Okay.
kind of wine? Is it like a Cabernet Sauvignon? Is it a Pinot Grigio?
I think it's whatever you want. They have like a selection, so you get to choose,
Okay.
or if you want a martini or cocktail. So,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, it's pretty good
Nice.
stuff.
Rock on.
That one.
Yes, thank you.
Nikki, is Restore Belief still on hold?
Until I stop having migraines, yes.
Okay.
All right.
I would like, that's why I didn't do one last week. I was fully intending on doing one last week, and I got nailed so bad with migraines
I hear
for
ya.
days. I'm having headaches right now, but they're not anything like the migraines. So I'm like, I need to be well. I need to
Yes.
be truly well to be able to do what I want to do with my show.
For all
And
of
I
our,
hate calling it a show broadcast, but yeah, just keep an eye out on my Facebook page, on the Restore Belief with Nikki, because I will post when I will be back on. I fully hope that it will be tomorrow night. I cannot guarantee it because of what the hell is going on with my health.
Oh, and I
Absolutely.
forgot because of July 4th and everything with all the things going on. But a news story just posted on my blog, my Haunted Travel blog. Look up my Haunted Travel blog, Rosella C. Rao, and it comes up automatically. And there's a news story every first of the month. So since
Nice.
it's July 1st, it is up. So if you want a news story and a paranormal good read, there you go for free.
Perfect. Friend. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will not have a show next week, but the week after we will be back. And
Woohoo.
I have some questions for the panel, so we are going to be talking paranormal creatures.
Mhm.
Friend. Yeah,
Some crazy
that's all we're going to
questions
go with.
coming at you.
So I do have some questions for everyone, so hopefully we can get some answers. Friend. All right, ladies and gentlemen,
Okay.
thank you for joining us. Join us every Wednesday, 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Do not forget to
Except
hit
for
that
next
like and share button. Friend, have a great week. Have a great 2 weeks. Friend, we will be
Yep.
back with you in 2 weeks, rested, recharged, ready to go. Good
Stay
night, everyone.
safe.
Thank you.
Stay safe,
Yeah,
Stay
happy
safe,
4th.
everyone.